Thanks, everyone. For the next 20 minutes, we'll be talking about creative possibilities, and we hope to inspire you all. Again, I'm Heather Mikes, and this is my dear friend, Lenes.
So just want to check in. I've checked in with some of you one-on-one and found out that there are arts and medicine programs already happening in your NICUs, some people's NICUs here. How many people here already have an arts and medicine program on your NICU? Raise your hands. Some people, yeah, I'm seeing some hands. Yeah, excellent. How many of you have ever how many of you have classical music playing ever on your NICU? Okay, seeing some hands. Some people know about that research. Okay, great. And how many of you have ever sat down next to a parent and a sibling and painted a onesie and just had a moment of contact and a creative moment with somebody? I know Daphne has.
See some contemplative looks. That sounds intriguing, though.
Yeah. So who uses art for self-care? Any form of art or creativity? Ooh, now I'm seeing some hands. Yes.
Yeah, there are a few that we've already converted that I see going up too. Wonderful.
Painted today. Absolutely. Yes. And how many of you feel like you have no time for art and no time for self-care? Raise your hand if you have no time for art, no time for self-care. Oh, they all have time for it. Great. Our talk is a success already.
Well, over the next, again, maybe 19 minutes now, what we're going to do is hope to change and shift the audience into raising and feeling like they're a part of our options ABC, and certainly recognizing the importance of it, of creativity for self-care. So in order to do that, here are our learning objectives. We're going to talk about how the creative arts are therapeutic and beneficial, both to yourself and your patients and family. And then we'll discuss how to utilize creativity and resources for, again, you and patients and family. Okay, so in order to get going, I want you all to take a look at this picture. My daughter is beaming that this is what I'm using on the presentation here. And I'm hoping to evoke a sense of play and maybe a time where you can recall drawing something similar. And I wonder, what did your trees look like when you were a child? Or how did you draw your sun? Or rain clouds? And if you can't remember that, then maybe you have a child in your life and you can share a moment of awe as you think about how they're representing, creating, and expressing themselves. Now, we all have this tendency. It's innate within us. The question is, where did it go? And the truth is, it didn't go anywhere. It just got covered up by a lot of bear chases. That's how I would describe it. A lot of metaphoric being chased by a bear. Why do I say that? Well, because when you're being chased by a bear, right, we all know that parasympathetic activation goes way down and sympathetic drive goes up along with the stress axis, right? And if you're looking at all of these pictures here on the screen, what do they all have in common? It's that same physiologic response that we're getting. And it's hard then to think about creativity and to really cultivate that creativity, because creativity is the antithesis of what it means to have sympathetic drive going on in our bodies.
So burnout. How many, well, actually, I'm not going to have you raise your hand about this because you might not want to raise your hand. But there has been studies that show that with the magnitude of stress and work and effort that all of you put into saving babies' lives and just the healthcare industry and the socio-political climate, that burnout rates are skyrocketing. And 66% of people in the study acknowledge that they themselves are experiencing burnout. And 73% of their coworkers, they're noticing symptoms of burnout in their coworkers. So that is alarming rates of burnout. And it makes sense because there is a lot of traumatic stress that is in the undercurrents of what's happening on the NICU. There is people, although thankfully, due to the incredible work that is done on NICUs, most babies' lives are saved. But every probably family member and parent is afraid that their baby is going to be the one that's not going to make it. And there is terror. There is death terror that is undercurrent on the unit. There is uncertainty and vulnerability and fear, and it is traumatic stress. And so that obviously we know activates the amygdala.
So when we're able to invite creativity into our work and for our patients and their family, and we will get to how you can evoke that creativity here in a moment, there are some magical things that happen neurobiologically. Number one, our brainwave patterns change. We emit more alpha waves. Those alpha waves we can also get to in states of meditation. And so what are we really doing then when we're creating? We're getting to a place of relaxed focusedness. Our nervous system activates, and again, that's our parasympathetics that we're activating. So decreased drive of the sympathetics, which means we have more of that relaxed physiology happening. And our emotional state shifts. I'll tell you, even just painting in the room over there, I got to experience that for several of you all in the room. Many of you all spoke out loud in reflection, I feel so much more relaxed. And that smile came to me because I'm like, you're releasing more serotonin right in front of me. I see it being released. Yeah. So you have more serotonin release. And as Emmy was discussing, you're doing a shift from your amygdala, which gets activated when we're being threatened or when we're in fear. And it shifts to the prefrontal cortex, which again is where there's an intellectual ride for our actions, our emotions, and our behaviors, which naturally then impacts the work we do as physicians. So when you have all of that alterations happen in the brain, then this is how you're going to experience it in the work you do. There is an increased sense of emotional coping. There's an increased sense of being able to process grief. Naturally, there's more fulfillment and meaning making, and you're able to hold a greater capacity for curiosity and perspective. And I can go through this list here, but in my mind, they're all integrated. They all kind of lean into each other and are woven into each other. And naturally, when you're in this state, the burnout that you're experiencing decreases. I would even say is healed. And the tiredness, right? Again, when you're in that alpha wave state, you have that sense of alertness, of focus.
So, want to acknowledge the impact of making art. So, a lot of family members are feeling such a lack of control. And yet, when they're sitting there with a paintbrush and a canvas in front of them, or if they're sitting there with a pencil in their hand, even journaling, they're suddenly having a sense of control of at least this one particular moment. And so it brings you from a passive moment to a more active engagement, which is very healthy for the nervous system. A lot of people can move from a sense of being distressed into a sense of calmness. Many people actually were walking over with the art supplies, were like, I feel so relaxed, or I feel so calm. Somebody's like, I'm gonna take a watercolor class. So there's this experience that happens where we move from a fragmented, scattered feeling inside, and when doing art, we can move into a sense of unity and cohesion and integration. And also, a lot of people feel very isolated when they're going through some of those really difficult emotions that we mentioned earlier and undercurrents of the NICU. And so in participating with some of these art activities and the mindful communication that's listed in the free guidebook that we created for all of you, you can move from isolation to a greater sense of relatedness, connection to yourself, and also connection to your loved ones. So a lot of people, when they go through traumatic stress, develop post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. And also what's possible, especially when you engage in creativity, creativity happens to be a protective factor against PTSD, and creativity can help you develop post-traumatic growth, PTG, post-traumatic growth. And so when you're engaging in that creativity, you're having an opportunity for being in the here and now. You're not so concerned with what happened previously and what might happen. You're actually experiencing being in the present moment, and you're making meaning over what's happening as you're drawing or painting or writing, making a collage. It's a safer way to share feelings. As a therapist, as a mental health counselor, I have had so many people that felt like they couldn't speak. What they were dealing with was so bigger than their mind could even comprehend, and there wasn't even the words to describe the level of pain that they were in. But then when they were able to engage in art and there was moments of silence mixed in with the being able to speak, then the words came, and then the prefrontal cortex can come back online. And so creativity helps with developing resilience and with integration and communication. I love this slide. I have a cool sister onesie that was painted on a NICU. I just imagine that when that baby graduates from the incubator, that one day that they're going to be able to wear that onesie that their sibling made for them when they were in the incubator. So I just think that's so profound. And so I just want to acknowledge that this is happening on some NICUs, and this could also happen on the NICU that you might be connected with, that there's these rooms that are set up, and this particular amazing room had food and had education and all these wonderful children's books and an opportunity for people to engage and have a moment of peace among the chaos. And I also wanted to acknowledge the creativity of this conference itself, the innovation conference that we're all at. There's creativity all around us. Every single presentation that has happened here is filled with creativity. And on the Incubator podcast, there's all these thought leaders and creative ideas that are evolving the field. And one of my favorite forms of creativity is music. My sister brought her guitar here. You might have heard her play earlier. And if you come in our little craft station at 4 o'clock, she will also be there with her guitar playing music, just as happens on many NICUs. The music that literally helps develop the brains of neonates. It helps develop the brains. This music is so powerful. And I also want to acknowledge that music has been shown in studies to help with postpartum depression and also with increased lactation for breastfeeding and the mother-infant bond and the father-infant bond or parent-grandparent bond with the baby if music's playing. And so what we're going to do right now is just pause, feel our feet on the ground, take a breath, and have a moment of silence. Feel what you notice in the silence. And then I invite you to imagine looking into the eyes of a baby as this music is playing. Thank you. Music is powerful. I don't know if anyone just experienced in the body the contrast of the moment of silence and the moment of music, but music is so healing and it is so helpful.
And I'll just elevate too that, again, when we're talking, I know a lot of these slides obviously have a lot of visual art on them and projects that we've done with patients. But certainly when we're talking about how to specifically work with your patients, just what a powerful tool music is. All right. So how will you nurture your creativity today? Now, I'll certainly lead in saying that it can be intimidating. I know this because our class station hasn't even been touched. I get it. And here's what I want to say. As doctors, we're overthinking it. We are overthinking creativity. It's innate within us. Did you know that even when you organize your closet or your desk, that is considered creativity? Right? I got so much peace when I heard that because I've been doing that for a while. we think that it has to be related to an expert, right? Because we are all experts in the room. And so we think, we're not creative unless there is an expert leading us. That's simply not true. In order to get started, you can use mediums that you have available to you. It can be pen and paper or a pencil, right? Again, look to some of the kids' craft materials. Look to kids as our guides on some of this, right? Because they're the ones more deeply connected to it than we are. Use what you have and just commit to it. Don't overthink it, right? Again, I'm going to say that again. Don't overthink it. Don't worry about outcomes. I know it's easy to judge and say, well, that doesn't look like a tree or that doesn't look like a flower. Don't worry about it. You're just expressing something in the moment with the materials you have. And it's important to make the time. Just like we are told it's important to make time to debrief or to kind of have that morning pause or to meditate in the morning for well-being. Being creative has to have that intentional component to it as well. So what can that look like for you? I'd like you all just to kind of either look up on the screen, or when I say creativity, think about the first word that comes to mind and commit to it. Maybe later today or tomorrow. Maybe outside on the break, because we'll have plenty of creative things for you to experiment with. Remember that there is no right way to be creative. And it doesn't even have to be visual. It can be music. It can be organizing your sock drawer when you go home. I love this slide. So come find us on the break. We'll make sure that you exercise your creative muscles. There's also a QR code here that you can scan to and immediately get yourself an electronic version of this lovely handout we have for you, which is packed with lots of creative ideas for yourselves, your patients, and their families.
Easy, simple instructions that make it's so simple to engage in creativity. And this has ideas for healthcare providers. This has ideas to help out family members. It has ideas to help the baby themselves. So there's so much value in this. And I really encourage you to, we have copies of this outside. You can flip through and you can get the QR code online. And really hope that you all join us at 4:00, because we want you to go home with a gift. And you can create a gift. You can co-create a collaborative project. Do you want to mention the collaborative project?
Yes, we have a collaborative project that will be revealed at dinner, but it won't be revealed unless everybody collaborates. So we are going to need people to actually come and join in.
Yeah. So there's a little piece that you can add to a much bigger collaborative, beautiful project that you will get revealed later today. And then there's also lots of individual opportunities for you to create poetry for people. This literally, in 5 minutes, a mother and her 10-year-old daughter wrote these incredible poems from the simple instructions on here. People that are like, I can't write a poem. If you think you can't write a poem, the instructions in here are for you. Those of you that know you can write a poem, write your own poem. But if you don't know how to write one, you can learn very simply in here. And there's lots of simple ideas that are very, very meaningful, powerful, and helpful. So I really hope that you engage with this packet and engage with us at 4:00.
Thank you so much.